Taty Forex in the house. Another trade recap today. This is going to be quick and simple. Get in, get out. Thanks, Samar. Let's go. Hope you enjoy it. The show is about to get started. Hello again, ladies and gents. So we're back to the charts, and now you're asking, Tatiana, why the did you take your face out of the video? And I'm going to tell you this, guys, you need to be focused on the charts purely and simply, right? My face here is not going to add any value to you because it's probably going to distract you. And why? Well, it's simple, because I do things like this and this and this. Gone too long anytime. So I'm too expressive and I don't want to interfere your brain with my interesting faces. So yeah, let's rock it, ladies and gents. So today I'm going to talk about a trade I did on the 31st and last day of August. So what is the first thing we're going to do? Well, it's simple, guys. We're going to go back to the 21st of August at 6 a.m., which is basically when I arrived at the charts. Exactly. So when I arrived here, what was I seeing? Well, basically I was seeing that price tapped 15-minute supply. What is our current structure? Well, we broke the structure above and then we broke the structure below. So the overall structure at the moment is bearish, right? This is my premium and discount of the leg. So the overall structure is bearish. So any movement that is long, it's going to be counter trend, and any movement that is short is going to be pro trend, right? If we take a look at the 4-hour and daily, I'm actually going to jump to bring on the outlooks I shared on my Telegram. Yeah, if you want to take a look, feel free. The link is on the description. So the daily forecast is this. So in terms of daily, well, this is my lower low before we create this one. So this was my lower low. Then we came back to this. Then we created a break of structure here. We created a new lower low, and therefore this is my current structure. So if we see, and we're going to think about shorts, we're going to be in line with daily. If we're going to think about longs, we're going to be counter trend to daily, right? When we take a look at the 4-hour, what do we see? Well, it's interesting to understand how we can look at structure and what can we see that's happening, right? Well, we see that this is a demand not because it created a new high, because it didn't create a new high yet, but because it was responsible for sweeping all this liquidity over here, right? And then having a strong, this is a sell to buy, right? This is actually engulfed, which means that there is a strong bullish momentum here. Where am I painting with blue when I love pink? Sorry, guys. Basically, this was it. And we see demand being respected. This low was respected, then this came to sweep this one here, and it was respected here again. So basically, yeah, it's a significant demand, but it's not a very strong demand because it didn't create a new high. So yeah, this was the 4-hour, right? And then when we go to the 15-minute, well, let's remember one thing. This is a 4-hour supply, right? This is so big. Oh my... Why? You see, if you were seeing my face, you would be completely distracted at the moment. I'm so glad you can't see my face. Okay, what about now? Yay! This is a 4-hour supply, right? After price tapped a 4-hour supply, creating inducement on the first tap, right? So this was actually a trap. Then we came up, we swept the liquidity on this candle. It's not very clear sweep, but it is a sweep of this high, right? And then after that, what do we see? Well, we see a change, right? And why? By the way, I'm going to stop calling it change of character because many people get confused. Well, we just have a change of order flow, right? So the overall order flow is bullish, then it change. So CH for change. Simple. Look, it's much simpler to get, right? Change. Okay, let me just go back so you can see, understand. So basically what we have here, well, we have this supply being respected, right? And then we have another supply here, right? What could happen is, well, price could sweep this liquidity over here because we still have liquidity here, right? Or price could use all this as inducement to come up, then give us a sort of reaction and then continue lower. What we may see also is that we also have a change coming from the reaction of this supply here. So look, we took the highs, we took the lows, and there we have a change. And we actually see that this zone was respected, right? It didn't give much of a reaction because then demand was stronger than supply, but we see a reaction. But then what we see basically is that this was all fuel, right, for a deeper mitigation of this supply. And now what we can understand is that, okay, what is price going to do? And there you go. Look, you see? So price swept this high, this supply failed, and price came above to mitigate this part, right? So if we go to the 5 minute, once that 15-minute supply was so strange, what you can do is actually go to the 5 minute and see what's happening. So basically the 5 minute was just this, right? And look, once this buy to sell of the 5 minute was just this, and this I usually do when? Why are you asking? Oh, Tatiana, why do you have in our market that you refine that 15-minute zone? Well, it's simple. Look at the 15-minute and look how confusing it is. Like, okay, where will I select trading zone here? Oh, it's simple. Go lower. Go to the 10 minutes, see if it's easier to see. If it's not, go to the 5 minute and look at the 5. The 5 minute, this zone is so significant because it swept this liquidity here. Yeah, right. So price created a high, then created a low, then created a high, then created a low. So there's liquidity here. Price swept that liquidity, and then we see a huge buy to sell that created, it's also the extreme that created a failure of this demand over here, right? So this is a very strong supply to trade from, and that's exactly why I was looking for a trade right over there. And now what we may see is that when we have a sweep of this liquidity here, which was quite strong, we may now see price dropping lower. We may see that this demand is going to hold, but if this demand is going to hold, probably the trade we're going to get from this supply is going to give us at least a break-even trade. So when you ask, well, why do you actually try to even take a chance taking a trade here if supply is failing? Well, basically because I'm seeing all this as liquidity that was swept, right? So this liquidity was all swept. And this supply that was deeply mitigated with this buy to sell, this one here, right? So this is the buy to sell that mitigates this supply, was quite significant because it swept this liquidity, right? And it's a deeper tap on the 4-hour supply. So we would expect some sort of bearish move, even if it's going to be just for short term and then it's going up, okay? Another factor that is important is look at all this cause for lower prices. Because the thing is, in terms of here, what's the cause that we have for higher prices? The only thing we have actually for higher prices is going to be taking this high and then the liquidity that is above this high, right? Because there's actually nothing really here. So if the overall structure is bearish and we have cause for lower prices, not only here, but also here, look at all the fuel here resting below. This is all fuel. Do you like my new icon for fuel? Look, this is all fuel. It's fire. It wants to get burned. Ooh. So yeah, so basically look at all the liquidity available for us. So where is the cause? One thing that quite helps me when I'm trading is, where is the cause for price to go? Where is the biggest cause for price to go? I learned this with a very good guy. Cause for higher prices or cause for lower prices? Well, when I look at all this, I look at cause for lower prices, because all the cause I had here for higher prices, yeah, well, it's swept already, right? The liquidity is done. So where price may be heading? Well, lower, because it makes sense, right? So let's see. So when price tapped this, we went into the 1 minute, and now what we see is this. Well, so we had all this liquidity that was taken, right? I think you may agree with me. So we had all this liquidity here resting. We swept that liquidity, considering also this high that was swept, right? And we actually mitigated, if we see, look, we mitigated this inside bar here with this buy to sell, right? So if I put a line here, let's see, look. So yeah, so now you ask me, well, this could be a potential trade for me to take. And I say, well, yes, you could try to be involved here. Once we see supply failing one after the other, I actually waited, because sometimes I get swept on the first. I'm noticing that sometimes I get swept on the first tap. So I waited for a second tap just to understand that bearish intentions were coming, right? So what do we see? We see price actually mitigating this whole sell to buy range, right? Which is a demand. There's always a reason why price does what it do. Then it comes up, and I said, whoa, nice. There was liquidity here, because we see price trading below this low. So when we see price trading below this, we see liquidity here. Could you try to be involved in this first trade? Well, yeah. I just wanted further confirmation, because if we see strong bullish candles, so we see strong bullish momentum. I wanted to wait for further development to understand if this supply was going to hold or not. So when price actually swept this liquidity, I was saying, okay, so let's see if we continue to have bearish momentum. So my chop would be here. I had my price alert here. It was quite quick to get activated, right? So we swept this liquidity here. Remember my rules, right? We mitigated an important POI. We swept the liquidity, right? We have a change of character, and we have actually also this demand here failing, right?
I'm sure if you're going to see this, let me just try to put this here. And it's easy for you.
What would be even better in this situation? Well, it would be even better that price delivered and left me with some liquidity here. So this supply would be even stronger for me to take, right? Because it had liquidity. But the POI grabbed liquidity. So for me, it's enough. If it grabbed liquidity, I'm willing to take that trade. If it didn't grab liquidity, I needed to see some sort of liquidity being created. Once it took liquidity for me, it's more than enough. So what did I do? Well, I just set my limits. Set my limit here. Only selected the wick, yeah. So it was a 1.5 pips stop loss. And so I just waited for price to take me, because it was reason enough for me to take this trade. It swept liquidity. It swept all this liquidity here. Bearish price was confirmed after we sweep the liquidity. So this was actually a trap. This was actually a trap for sellers in a rush. And I am going to be humble and honest with you. Sometimes I fall into this trap. But you know what I don't do? I don't stop trading just because I fell into this trap, right? Because we have all this void of liquidity. So yeah, like there was a huge possibility that price was going to come above and mitigate and sweep all this. But yeah, sometimes I get trapped here. In this case, I wanted to understand if this POI was going to last or not. So I wanted and waited for further price delivery, and I'm glad I did, because price not only swept liquidity, also failed, changed here again the order flow, and then, well, I just waited for price to tag me in. Price tagged me in. I'm going to tell you one thing. I was doing an FTMO trial, because I've been trying to do some trials while I'm still trading my challenge, and I was tagged out of this one because of spread. So yeah, which is good because it's a trial, and I need to remember that FTMO, I need to give it a larger buffer, because otherwise I'll be tagged out of many trades. But I'm so used to this raw spreaded account, which is amazing, that I'm literally not worried about that. But if I want to pass a challenge soon, I need to be worried about it, of course. So yeah, look at what happened. It automatically went down. What you may see here is that we actually swept again this liquidity here, because price came higher than this high. So we have a change here again. We have the man failing again. So we may see another trade here, right? I actually had this limit on. And I actually had this limit on and left it on, and then it came to a loss because I went to work and then didn't take it off. So yeah, basically this was it, and this was a nice supply also because it has inducement. So I was willing to take this, especially because if you take in consideration, I was already risk-free here. Okay, so my risk-free is at 1 to 4. Then what did price do? Well, actually, price came to respect this decisional and continued lower and didn't come to tag me in. And I was seeing this all liquidity for the extreme, to be honest. But yeah, and that was it. It's lovely. Let's put the 15 minutes so you see it's lovely. Now, talking about targets, okay? In terms of targets, you could select 10R, which is doable, and you know I do that a lot of times. You could select this demand, but let's take in consideration one thing, guys. Was this demand strong enough to break this high? It wasn't, right? It broke this high, that's true. But for me, look at all this liquidity over here, resting here, right? So it's a lot, of course, for price to come lower, right? So I didn't select this demand. For me, this demand was not important. I would only take in consideration this demand if my trade was not tagged in, like I was not tagged in before price touch here. Because what could happen is like, well, price didn't tag me in, and then price came here, and then it could go all the way up, and I wouldn't have time for having a break even, right? So that's where I would pay attention to it. But once I was tagged in, I was already risk-free. It made no sense for me for price to drive all the way up. And even if it did, all I would have was going to be a break even. So no worries. So what did I do? Well, I selected this high because I'm going to be completely honest with you. I needed to make some R, right? I needed to make some percentage because I was enough, almost 15% drawdown. Did it make sense that I selected all this liquidity below? Of course it did. I completely agree that this low here, which is a weak low because it was not able to create a new high and supply was still in control, it would be a valid take profit. I actually select, I think it was 7-0. Yeah, here, 7-0. Because I was saying, well, 30R, that's actually amazing. I'm just going to keep the 30R in my pocket, and there you go. Because if we see prices ranging so much that price could actually tap this demand and still go, and I'm like, well, here is one thing, right? Having all this liquidity below, it was actually, for me, it didn't make any sense that price wouldn't sweep this. But then after sweeping all this liquidity, price could still react to this and maybe then come deeper to this, and then only after that continue lower with the expectation order flow. So yeah, It's better some than none. And let me tell you what happened after. So I went to work. So usually I go to work at 12, right? So 12, my hit was, my TP was hit already, and I was so happy. And then price came, price continued, right? I went to work. I was super happy. I completely forgot about this limit here. But to be completely honest with you, it still made sense, right? Because price could come all the way up and then continue with bearish order flow, because we see that the lows are getting taken. But other thing, like if the liquidity was taken, price could also do what it did, which is like completely forget about my limit and yeah, and take me out. So that's what it did. Came to the extreme, just I was saying to you, that price came to the extreme to then continue lower. You see that's what happens. So that's why I actually took my take profit here. So this day, what is the overall of this day? So basically it's going to be 31R, right? 31R minus that 1R right there. So basically today what I did was 30R. And now, well, for everyone that are not, and now, yeah, that's it. So I think for today is enough. And that was it. Thank you very much for watching until the end. Please write down in the comments if you're enjoying the content or not. Would you like me to keep dropping? Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Follow me on Instagram. Don't forget to tell the last sentence. Gratitude is the fastest way to raise your vibration so you can attract the life of your dreams. Take care. Peace.